Today, I'm gonna show you how to make the perfect bean. We'll start with 1 pound of dry pinto beans. We've already gone and made sure that there was no rocks in here. If there's any that are broken, that doesn't bother us. Next up, I've got 40 ounces of water. And to that, I have some chicken flavored bone broth. We're gonna add the whole 24 ounces. Next up, I have half a tablespoon of pinto bean seasoning. This is made by Fiesta, really good stuff. And another half tablespoon of my secret weapon, which is Malcolm's Grande Gringo. This stuff tastes absolutely incredible. It also brings a nice saltiness to our beans. 1 tablespoon of salt. Now I've got 1/3 of a green onion sausage link and 1/3 of an original sausage link from Tuttle's Meat Market. We have it mixed up here. And then I have half of a pack of bacon. Our goal for competition is to make sure that everything is smaller than the bean, but if you're doing this at home, don't worry about that at all. For now, all we're doing is half of each of our proteins. I'm just eyeballing here. Now I'm gonna turn my burner on high. I wanna get this to a boil. While this is getting up to a boil, I just like to mix everything together. And I'll put my lid on top just to help everything get to a boil a little bit quicker. After around 8 to 10 minutes, you can see our beans are now boiling. What I'm gonna do now is set a 30-minute timer, and I'm gonna let these boil for 30 minutes. My 30-minute timer just went off. You can still, my beans are still bubbling. At this point, all I wanna do is completely shut my burner off. Now I'm gonna let my beans sit here for 1 hour. We're not gonna do anything to them at all. I just want them to sit for 1 full hour before we move on to the next step. It's been 1 hour that our beans have been sitting here in the pot. Now I like to go ahead and taste it just to see where we're at flavor-wise. Just gonna go ahead and taste the broth real quick. And as of right now, I do believe that it needs a little bit more salt, but I'm gonna hold off on that for now. So I'm gonna add the rest of my ingredients, and as this reduces, it will pull a little bit of the flavor from the rest of the stuff that we're adding right now. So I don't wanna add any salt yet, but it is something I like to keep in my mind. So I'm gonna go ahead and add the rest of my proteins. Now I have half of a large white onion. Next up, a can of Hatch flavored Rotel. I also throw the juice in there. I've also got a tablespoon of minced garlic. I'm just gonna stir everything together, and I'm gonna turn my heat on to about a medium right now. Put my lid back on, and now we'll let the beans come to a simmer. This right here is exactly what I'm looking for when it comes to a simmer. I started at about medium heat, now I'm at a lower heat, and I want it to roll like this until my beans are completely done. So I am gonna be stirring occasionally, which we'll show you once or twice, but all I'm looking for now is the tenderness of the bean. Everything is gonna cook over time, but the most important thing is that tenderness, and then we can check for saltiness in a little bit. Now you'll notice on my lid, I have some large holes here and some small ones. And what I do is I line those up perfectly where my spout is. I think that's called a spout, where you can pour from. So that allows a little bit of this steam to actually come out of this bowl so we're not cooking too hot. If I need to also, and I feel like I'm losing too much liquid, I can just pop my lid like this just to make sure that this is not reducing too quickly. At this point also, I would keep some water near just in case you do reduce a little bit too fast. That's completely fine. You can add water as you need to. You're just gonna wanna eyeball it. Make sure that the liquid's a little bit over the top of your beans and your meats, and you should be completely fine. It's been 4 hours on our beans, and we've been stirring consistently. At one point, we did add just a little bit of water. So if I could give you an idea of how much water I like in my beans, it's just enough to make sure everything is moving around, and maybe, I don't even know, just a little bit of water above the bean. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but hopefully you can get an idea of what it looks like when I added the water and then when I stopped. So now we're just gonna taste the bean. We're gonna see if it's fully cooked. We wanna taste for salt as well. If we need to add more, right now is when we wanna add it. Now, as you guys can see, my beans here looking really good. If I could give you an idea of how I like my beans, I do like them a little bit soupier than normal, or than maybe most people like them. But the good thing about it is you can absolutely take some of the juice out, but once you're done cooking them, you can really only add water or something else that hasn't been cooking with these beans the whole time. So I do prefer more liquid than not enough. So what I'm gonna do now is just go ahead and grab one of my beans here, Squish it, yeah, nice, soft, tender bean. So I know that my bean should be nice and done. Yeah, breaks apart really easy. It's really, really hot, so that kind of hurts, but again, the bean is nice and soft, so I know that these are done. Now, the last thing I want to do with my beans is I want to add 1 fresh jalapeno and then half of a bundle of cilantro. We do chop that up just a little bit. From here, I'm going to stir everything in. I can smell that cilantro already. Really, really comes through nicely. I'm going to turn my burner off. And now we're just going to taste the liquid. At this point, again, we're just looking to see if we need to add salt to our beans. Now, that does have a great flavor to it, but I do think it needs a little bit more salt. So now is the time to add it, just to make sure that we don't over salt. We're going to do a little bit at a time and continuously taste. And at that point, I'm completely happy with the salt level on my beans. Now we're just going to let them rest for 30 minutes before we make a bowl. Now, after hours and hours of labor, it is time to try our beans. I'll tell you what, from here, they smell so good. Right when you throw in that fresh cilantro, it really just overtakes your kitchen, or even if you're outside, you can smell it. And I love that fresher, it's not necessarily fresh because it does get cooked a little bit, but that fresher smell that you get from the cilantro. So let's go ahead, get a nice spoonful here. You can see that it's still extremely hot. This is probably gonna hurt. Probably gonna drop a little bit here just real fast. Try and be careful. The biggest tip I could give you guys is that cilantro in the end really, really, really elevates these beans. The first thing I get when the beans hit my tongue is that freshness right off the rip. And then of course I get that delicious bean flavor that we got from the pinto bean seasoning. And then this is very, very hearty. You could eat this just as a meal on its own. It has the sausage in there. It has the bacon in there. It has the rotel as well. This is just a very, very, very well-balanced bean. I don't go for anything extravagant, and I don't go for anything underwhelming either. And I think that's really why we were able to get a perfect score bean with this exact recipe. So if you guys are interested in competition beans, try this out. But if you just want to make delicious food at your house, this is the recipe for you. As always, we really appreciate you guys tuning into this video. Thanks. I promise you, I'm probably going to have 6 bowls of this today. And we'll see you on the next one.